What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Unapologetically Black Male, where we're surviving stigma, standards, and systems. Once again, this podcast is to highlight African American men, success, and how they got to where they are right now. We're excited that we have our guest on today, Brother Marion Thompson. But first, let me give a shout out to my co-host, Brother EJ Stewart, and also to Boss Lady. We want to shout her out, J Pope, from Jennifer Pope from J Pope and Associates. Thank you for providing us with this opportunity to kind of get this message out and continue to spread the message, because as we know, as African American men, we hear so much about our failures. We need to hear some success stories. So I want to turn it over to Brother Marion Thompson, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, a little bit about his business, and just kind of give us a little history about himself and get to know him a little bit more. So it's on you, Marion.
Let me say good evening to everyone, and I appreciate each of you having me and allow me to be a part of this platform. I see it as a privilege, and I don't take it anything less than. Right now, currently, I'm the owner and operator of Next Destination Transportation, LLC. And Next Destination Transportation, LLC is based in the city of Baltimore. I've been in transportation for about 15 years. And I've learned that I have a passion for transportation. And Dwayne has introduced me as Brother Marion. And so I actually been in the church community for a very, very long time, but it wasn't always that way. I actually grew up in East Baltimore. And if you guys are familiar, I know Dwayne, you grew up in Baltimore, and EJ and everyone else, if you grew up in Baltimore, I'm sure you're familiar with McElderry and Collington, Ashland and Rose, Orleans and Rose too. I think at that particular time, maybe in the 80s, early 80s, we used to call it Deaky Land. So that's where I grew up. Community leadership really hadn't established itself in a lot of those communities, but there was a lot of people who really, really saw a lot in me and really spoke and encouraged me. And I learned that people see more in you than you can actually see in yourself. And to kind of keep me away from a lot of the, if you kind of can remember in the 80s, maybe early 90s, heroin, crack, a lot of stuff was influential in the community. And so to kind of build the barrier around me, they got me involved in scrubbing steps. And so they gave me a bucket and some solution, and I started scrubbing steps for a quarter. And I started using those quarters to go to the corner store and get penny candy. And that was my very first job. And when I started working and scrubbing steps and getting older and getting into high school, I think that's where I really had a lot of influences. And life really, really started to accelerate at a certain point, because as Dwayne, as I mentioned, he calls me Brother Marion. I think life for me started to really connect to the church at the age of 15, maybe 16 years old, because I started getting exhausted with what the street had to offer me. It got to a certain point at 17 years old where life started to slow down to a pause. And I was going to be facing 5 years in prison. And when I started really building a relationship with a lot of the brothers in the church, they started to really see a lot of what I had to offer, not just the streets, but also the community. And that's actually when I really gained a mentor. And my mentor is James Gardner. And I told him that I'm going to be facing a court case with the possibility of facing 5 years. And he said to me that, he said, once it's over with, come see me. And when I got to court that day and everything played out, it wasn't really swaying in the direction that I thought it should go. And so I really, really asked the lawyer, can I have my opportunity to speak? And she gave me that opportunity. And I really learned that it wasn't a cliche that God can be a lawyer in the courtroom. And when I had the opportunity to speak on my own behalf, I didn't hear all of the words that the judge said, but I knew that I walked out of the courtroom. And from that point, I knew that the streets again didn't have anything to offer me. I had more to offer God than the streets. So I retired as a street disciple and became more of a disciple for God. And from that point on, the leadership in the church gave me a number of different responsibilities, and one of them was transportation. And transportation at my church home at that particular time was a 7-day operation. We ran transportation often. And as a matter of fact, I took the time to drive too, because you can't ask those that are under you to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very hands-on in transportation. And that's where, again, as I mentioned earlier, I realized that I really had a passion for transportation. And so that opportunity kind of got me more into tractor and trailer. And I just got inspired by just seeing the drivers and just learning a lot of knowledge and exchange and conversation. And I said, I really want to do tractor and trailer. I want to drive. So I drove. I actually went to school for about 6 months. And then I drove after getting my commercial driver's license. I drove for about 7 years. Mm. And there are some things that happened with that industry that kind of really turned me off a little bit. And it was more having to do with management. Gotcha. So I just decided that this might not work. So I made a change. I made a decision that I'm going to actually start instructing students. So I actually went to a school that actually trains students how to drive tractor and trailer. So I did that for some years. And then I decided to get into more of a private industry. Okay. And I drove in that industry for about 7 years. And I had a lot of people ask me, have I considered starting my own business? But I never really saw that within myself. Matter of fact, I didn't have a lot of people that was entrepreneurs that surrounded me. But I thought about the people that I interacted with on a regular basis, Fortune 500 people, individuals that are very professional and business oriented. And a lot of times they would suggest me starting my own business. And so you have enough people to ask you, and it starts to pique your interest. And I remember my cousin, we were actually just having a general conversation, nothing about transportation. And his dad actually walked in the room and he asked me, had I considered starting my own business? And I told him no. But I said, I think I can do it. You know, I really wanted to muster the gumption to really consider starting my own business. And I thought about if I had a business, it would definitely be transportation. But I know I had a passion for transportation, but passion for transportation doesn't equal profit.
Gotcha.
And so I thought about the name and I said, next destination. I want to provide services from one destination to the next destination to the next. And that's how I came up with the name, Next Destination Transportation. And I went through all the necessary steps. I wanted to do it the right way. For a very long time, I wasn't doing a lot of things the right way. I thought that the only thing slicker than me was a can of oil. and as I mentioned, after going through that court case, I said that I got to do some things differently. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to take the necessary steps in how to start a business, got a mentor. And the mentor really taught me how to separate what I should do from what I should not do. Mm. And so after having one vehicle, getting into the business aspects of things, again, the passion for transportation doesn't equal profit. 9 months, no calls, no texts, no emails. Mm. And it was a very, very interesting time. And my wife would often encourage me. She would say, babe, you got to get one transport per week. Got to get one. And I remember I got my first transport. Actually, it was after me reaching out to someone that I had met while I drove for the private service. It was actually Torrey Smith. He actually played for the Baltimore Ravens, and he was traded to a number of different teams. And they actually won 2 Super Bowls within those trading times in the NFL. I reached out to him via text message, and I told him I started a business. And he asked me about the rates. I said, I don't have any rates because I never had a client. And he sent a text message back and said, well, I'm going to support you. And he actually did. He actually was my very first client. And when he paid me, I couldn't believe the amount that he gave me. You know, I actually wanted to take the money and put it in a frame more so than to spend it.
Right.
You know, because as an entrepreneur, I don't think people take in consideration that you actually got to make money.
Mm.
You know, you actually literally have to make money.
Right.
And you never want to assume that those closest or even those that are most distant will support you.
Mm.
And I will say, after the first year, it wasn't a family member or a friend that actually supported the business. A lot of times it was strangers. And also, it wasn't a lot of people the same color as me. But a lot of folk that were the same color as me were willing to, again, mentor and invest in me. And
Mm.
so that was greater than money, because that's the reason why I'm still here, even after a pandemic. So, you know, after Tori started to invest in the money by investing in the service by using the services and also referring the services to some of his family members and friends, that's still not a whole lot of money to take care of your responsibilities. So what he had me to do was he had a lot of different events in the city of Baltimore. He actually would hire me to actually provide the services for a lot of different celebrities and some of the people who were here, promoters and things like that. And so that still wasn't enough to keep the business going. It was when we got approved by the government. I think that's what really helped to sustain things. And another component to the services was added, where we provide services for individuals who have developmental disabilities, individuals who are sight impaired. We do ambulatory transportation as well. And we actually were able to get our first van. So I started with an SUV, but we got our first van when we partnered with a school. And the name of the school was Green Street Academy.
Okay.
And we started providing transportation for that school during the summer. And a lot of murders was happening to a lot of youth during that time. And not to say it's not happening now, but I think I really started to realize it then. And so they wanted to put emphasis on the word green. And with that emphasis on the word green, they had the idea of taking flower pots after collecting a lot of tires and actually making the tires into flower pots and planting flowers in the back of the school. They would take the flower pots after making them out of tires. They would actually place them in front of a lot of the homes in the community.
Wow.
As an effort to break down barriers, build bonds, and build relationships with the community. And so what they did, once the school year was over, they asked all men to actually join them and surround the entire community, starting with the front door, surrounding the community within maybe 1 or 2 block radius. And they asked all the men that they can gather to come and pray with them, and whatever religion or faith that you had, to actually come and pray with them as they started their school day. And so through that opportunity, I was able to get my first van. It actually was Big Red. Big Red had the roof was coming off, and AC wasn't working. Matter of fact, the first day I bought Big Red broke down. The very first day Big Red broke down, I took it to the place that I bought it from, and they actually fixed it. And Big Red was back on the road. So it got me through the whole entire summer. And that was my first vehicle. Got the connection with the government and started building relationships with different agencies. And from that point on, I really realized the value of having relationships. Instead of just them being transactions, there are relationships.
Right.
And so with the services on the private side of things, I understood the importance of customer service, understanding the importance of being a people person. I think my personality is flexible enough, and I think I am light enough to render the service myself. So I really had to figure out how to really tailor the private service, because developmental disabilities, that's working. Being able to provide ambulatory services, that's working. But how can I actually really devote a lot of time in the private service, and understanding the importance, again, of customer service? If you're not a people person, then you're in the wrong business, because we're in the business of serving people. And being able to provide a service 24 hours a day, 7 days a night a week, I say 24 hours a day, 7 days a night a week, humanly, by myself, that's not possible.
Right.
So I really started to think about, how can I bring someone else in and really try to duplicate and expand the business? And so I've had an individual for the last couple of years that I've actually been really working with. We also decided to kind of really start working with a lot more youth. One of the components to our service is that we provide transportation to and from different airports. And there's a lot of youth that don't have a car. They don't, and I grew up without a car within our household. So we're actually in the process of trying to make sure that we provide a vehicle for a youth where in exchange, instead of paying them, they can actually be a part of the business, but also gain the opportunity to be able to drive, to train them on how to drive. But in exchange, they could be a part of the business. Again, I say, whether they be a greeter, whether they're helping to clean the inside or outside of the vehicle, something that they can be a part of the business and take them out of the communities that they're in and help them do better and be better so they can see what better looks like in their own life. And that's my way of actually copying and pasting what was done for me growing up. And as you know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying that I think that's a good model to have, because you understand the importance of pouring back into somebody else what was poured back into you.
Absolutely.
I do want to touch on a little bit. I don't want to cut you off, but I want to touch on a little bit about the struggles that you had. Just kind of like, many times when people start a business, they really just think like, oh, I'm just going to start a business and this going to happen like this. But how did you manage like that 9 months of, not receiving, consistent calls, or you might get a call here or there? Like, how did you handle that? I know, just how did you handle that time? And what helped you kind of make it through that to kind of continue like, all right, I know I got to keep pressing. I got to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And as I mentioned, a lot of it was encouragement from my wife. She was actually consistent income during that time. And I mean, even with, as I mentioned, the meal for the one transport that I got, it was definitely major encouragement to have that type of support in a nonverbal way. Sometimes we was eating the same meal, every time we was going out to celebrate. But to also consider this, for me, I had a passion for transportation. And I started to think if I could start getting clients and start paying bills, that was enough. I think, with Tori and his investment in using the services and having different events and him actually trusting me with different responsibility, that was kind of a bright light every time I got a transport. Gotcha. He could have probably easily just gave me the money, but I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I've learned. So it was just always, three things too. I want to also share this: God, most importantly, and then also to my wife. And then also I've met with my pastor, our pastor rather, Pastor Thomas, a number of different times, and had conversations where they actually poured in me, not in a financial or material way, but in a spiritually, mentally, and emotional way, because they also helped me to see that I got a good plan. I have a plan. I have a business. And how can I actually, again, as I mentioned, kind of tailor and cultivate it to meet the day-to-day needs? Because you have a lot of competition out there. And I started thinking about rideshare, and but that's not the competition. The competition is other businesses that are similar to this. So, I actually had to go back to the private service that I worked for a period of time to kind of, not full time, but just every now and then. And I used that as an opportunity. That experience is an opportunity to kind of see how I can implement some things. Some things wasn't working there, but it would work at Next Destination. There's been some times where even in that industry, working with that private service, where I've actually worked 14 hours, sometimes 15 hours, slept in the vehicle sometimes, to try to get an idea of how I can make this work within my own business. And that's what helped motivate me and keep me going.
Good. Thank you.
What did you pull from your faith and your experiences just in life that kept you so determined to say, this is what I'm going to do? And even though I'm sleeping in the car, I'm going to see this through.
I think if I could be even more transparent, there has always been a struggle with confidence for me, for sure. And given the responsibility, even within my church home, to actually manage transportation for 7 days, that manage transportation that we utilize for 7 days, that was a big responsibility. And then to have a lot of folk ask me, have I considered starting my own business? That actually helped a whole lot to actually really see that other people really have more confidence in me than I actually really considered in myself.
Mm.
And it's through a church. Anytime you're transporting people, people are the most difficult cargo to transport. It doesn't matter if it's a church, whether it's people who are drinking their pains away on Friday, Saturday, and then they sleep on Saturday night, drink water all night, and then get up and go to church on Sunday. It's still the same people.
Mm-hmm.
But taking every opportunity, whether it's transportation to the church or transportation, tracked in trailer, I've always been positioned to actually be an investment in myself with each opportunity. I had to see that. And so that wasn't a situation that I placed myself in. That was a situation that God placed me in because I didn't see this current day. I didn't see this currently now. So all of those opportunities helped me to stay in alignment with where I am today.
That's a major thing, highlighting the importance of confidence, as black men today and maybe of yesteryear. Confidence is something that can be taken out of context. It could be perceived as a negative thing. And in today's society, it seemingly for me sometimes, if a brother's not in athletics or entertainment or something like that, and they're not getting that affirmation, confidence is something that is seldom talked about. What are your thoughts on that, and how you recognize your confidence level and what it was and where it is? What would you say to a young brother about confidence and how it impacted you and how it could impact them?
I think if it's something that you want to do in life, you really have to really invest in yourself before you actually take maybe the first step in whatever it is that you want to do. And I think where I lacked a lot of confidence is because I thought about what I don't have and the possibility of certain things not working out. And my dad passed when I was 8 years old. And so going back to your faith question, EJ, I believe that God placed, Brother God and some other men around me to actually help fill that gap and help me understand that you rather raise a boy than repay a man. Understanding that being a black man is the hardest job in America. But that's coming from somebody who looks like you and sounds like you and been in a place where you're trying to go. And the other thing is that God placed me around imperfect people who made a whole lot of mistakes, smoked a whole lot of coke, sold a whole lot of dope, and came from the gutter where God found me. So I had to get over myself first because I'm the issue.
Mm.
I'm the issue. And so once I found out is I can do something more than just whatever I was doing on the streets, that's where, again, seeing what they saw, that I can actually be an entrepreneur. And that could be any definition of an entrepreneur. It can have a whole lot of perspective and angle to that. But to really be able to start somewhere and do it yourself, not just have somebody hand something to you, but actually build a foundation. And as you keep building, you can get a chance to see what you built because somebody encouraged you. And that's what I think will help build confidence. Because a lot of times, just like Dwayne said at the beginning of our discussion, he talked about he said, just like all people talk about the negative parts of life all the time, there's a whole lot of negativity. But it's rare that you get a chance to hear a lot of good news coming from a place where there's a whole lot of darkness. And so, if you can be the first to do something, whatever that is in your family, you don't have to start in your community, but just in your family or in your household. What are the steps to do that? And I think that will help them build some confidence.
That's good. That's good. I appreciate that. So with where you are right now, with where you kind of seen the progression of how your business has gotten to where it is right now. What would be your definition of success, and what would be your definition of like building wealth? What would you say that would be?
That is a very hard question to answer. My definition of success is to be able to. If you were going to say something, go right ahead.
No, I was just saying your definition, of success, your personal opinion of like what it means to you, because it means success for everybody is different.
Sure.
And like building wealth for everybody is different. Go ahead.
I think my definitions of success is being able to take this business and actually hand this business over to someone else, and for them to be able to take it and expand it further than what I can do. That would be my definition of success. The future is watching us every day. And so we got to we got to place something in their hand, whether it be a business, a book, it could be a life experience, so that they can be successful. That's what's going to help me be successful in life, because I ain't going to always be here, but they will. And so the definition of wealth, you didn't ask me that, but to be wealthy in a number of different ways, maybe wealthy in knowledge, maybe wealthy in building a community, because money just don't last long. It just don't. But people do. And so the investment in people is far reaching than the present day. And so if I can take this business and actually, again, place it in somebody else's hands and they can expand it further, then that's success to me.
That's good. That's good. DJ,
paying it forward. No, just being able to. And it's not more of a question, but just a statement. And salute to you. To have had the experiences that you've had and the success that you're having, to have remained to be so humble, passionate for paying it forward. I mean, just salute to you. I mean, we talk to some amazing brothers all the time, and the commonality is just brothers having that humbleness and being able to see the importance of everybody. You're no different. You're adding to the table, man, and just salute to you. And if you can, you talked about the other parts of Next Destination. What are the other pieces, in the private sector? You talked about getting rides to and from the airport. Are there some other elements that the people need to know about? How do they find you? How do they get in contact with you? Give us that information.
Unfortunately, before COVID, we really had a great niche going. It's probably something that's not novel. We were providing transportation for a lot of college students. A lot of parents were reaching out to us to actually provide services. We actually started with Johns Hopkins University, and there was actually a professor who transitioned back to Taiwan, and we were providing services for him, and we were providing services for a lot of his students. And so we're looking to actually really pick that back up again. Obviously, with COVID and the whole entire pandemic, it put everybody out of any building that existed, even the football stadiums and the basketball stadiums. And so now life is coming back into the buildings again. And so we really want to start picking that back up. We started providing services to students and going as far north as Yukon and Connecticut, and far south down to North Carolina. And so a lot of parents, they like the luxury of being able to place their child in the care of our services, because what we render is more than stop at the red light and go on green. It's actually a service.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to place their child in the vehicle with all of their room, their whole entire room, we got the vehicles to do that and to transport them back home and then from home back to school. That's a service that we're looking to really start back up again, because after this season is over with, kids will go back to school again. Also, too, for anybody who is actually looking to find out more about our services, we do have a website. And if it's okay for me to share, is that okay for me to share that?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay. The website is www.worldwideweb.nextdestination, next, N-E-X-T, destination, singular, LLC.com. And we also have a Facebook page as well as an Instagram page. When you go into the website, at the bottom of the website page, you have the links where you can click Instagram, you can click Facebook and see the pictures there. You might even see yourself on there if you're a repeat visitor. Also, we do have accreditation from the Better Business Bureau, and we've been fortunate enough to be A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. And we also have a Yelp page if you want to see some of the reviews that people provide. If there's something bad or negative that happens, people don't mind sharing it.
Of course.
But we've been fortunate enough to really have great experiences, and we don't take those experiences for granted.
I think I found you on IG, Next Destination LLC on Instagram. So I'm definitely following myself. I got to get into it when I need to. So
if I can add this too, EJ, one of the things that I learned in business too is that how to speak fluent customer service. Mm-hmm. And customer service has been the major highlight of what we do. But Dwayne, we've been able to turn this business into more of a ministry, and that's where the business really started to flourish. And so we adopted that ability to be able to open doors for people. People don't know how it feels to have a door open for them. Mm. And so to open the door, to make sure the vehicle is clean and sanitized, to make sure they have waters, and we follow the guidelines of the CDC and so on and so forth. So it's important to do those things to keep this business on people's mind.
This is awesome, man. I mean, I'm just looking at the pictures. This is awesome, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. So I think we're at the 32-minute mark.
You good. So Marion, we just want to take the time to thank you again for taking time out of your schedule. Just to kind of come on and share your story, share the information about your business. We definitely want to make sure we push that. And definitely appreciate you for coming on Unapologetically Male, Black Male. We want to make sure we specify that, because, we need to hear our stories and we need to hear our success story. And we survived so many things, throughout our lives that, when we make it to a point where we can have a career, be an entrepreneur, that it's important that we can try to share that message and share that story. So once again, we want to thank you for joining us. We want to thank all of our listeners who are joining us today. Make sure that you continue to follow us on our YouTube page, on our social media. We have a social media page. We're going to start plugging that, Unapologetically Black Male. So make sure that you follow us on there. You can follow us at J Pope Connections on Facebook. That's where most of our information is aired, as well as my personal page, Dwayne Pate on Facebook, and D Pate Jr. on Instagram. So once again, thank you for joining us today. Make sure you stay tuned for next week's episode.
Salute you, gentlemen. I appreciate you.